welcome back to Restoring the Mosaic. Well, today I have some good news along with the bad news. So let me bring you the bad news first and then give you some good news that is actually happening. I believe that there is going to be an implosion in the LGBTQ narrative. Oh, please, Lord God. Anyways, so what's happening? Well, let's look at the disastrous results of identity confusion and let's hone it down. The Gen Z group, born 1997 to 2002, they are nearly at 30% who identify as something other than heterosexual. Yeah, that could be homosexual, lesbian, bisexual, transgendered, or any of the other alphabet soup labels you want to put on them. This is really sad. It's not anything to be laughing at. It's very sad that we have so drank all of this rhetoric for so long that now, 2022, September 29th, 2022, we now have 1 in 6, or about 30% actually is more accurate according to Barna, who are identifying as something other than heterosexual. 72% now of those who identify as LGBTQ also identify, they're saying they're bisexual. Okay, so for 50 years, we have had the Born That Way motto, mantra, whatever you want to call it, shoved down our throats. It has literally changed the brains of a whole generation, probably more than one, because the vast majority of the populace believes and still believes that gays and lesbians are born that way. They have a harder time swallowing the new trans, and coming up down the road is the pedophilia born that way, which of course will be reflected in our diagnostic and statistical manual if it becomes true that pedophilia, becomes an orientation. Wait for that one. Okay, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that the brains of our children have been changed significantly. I've said this before, but I'm just wanting to reiterate it. Affirming care, yes. So we in Canada have totally capitulated the medical agenda to the medical agenda that's being promoted for our children who declare that they are in the wrong body, instead of actually questioning and saying what's happening, and instead of recognizing the mental health issues and the underlying issues and dealing with those. Our doctors, medical health professionals have just slapped a label on and said, okay, here's some meds for you, kiddo. Anyways, am I a little annoyed? More than. So here's the truth. Puberty blockers are not certified as effective or safe in the treatment of gender dysphoria by the National Institute of Health and Care Excellence. That's an acronym of NICE. Taking puberty blockers leads to cross-sex hormones, which leads to irreversible infertility. Let's tell our children that. But even so, what 10-year-old really cares if they're infertile or not? When I was 10 years old, I didn't care if I ever had a baby. When I was 25 or 30, I didn't care. I was 10 years old. For goodness sakes, leave our children alone. The other thing is, let's tell the truth. So being on puberty blockers leads to cross-sex hormones, leads to infertility, irreversible infertility. It leads to lifelong drug care, cross-sex hormones for life, and all kinds of complications with surgery should children decide to do that, and they are. Surgeries are irreversible. You don't ever get your breasts back if you have a double mastectomy. You get plastics ones. You get something that looks like it might be. You do not get your biology back, what you were created as who you were created as a biological being. Okay, so also, I want to tell you some good news, because that's enough bad news. There's some very good news coming down the pipe. New Zealand's Ministry of Health is following Sweden, Finland, and the UK in reversing its claim that puberty blockers are safe and fully reversible. So they're basically saying that they've been lying for all these years. They aren't saying that, of course. They will never say that, but they jumped the gun on prescribing puberty blockers for children because they aren't safe and they aren't irreversible if the child goes on. So, but it's good news that they're acknowledging this now. So they joined, New Zealand has joined with Finland, Sweden, and the UK. Canada, not so much, not happening here yet, but there's some neat news. This couple that you see here, I got to get their names right, Nigel and Sally Rowe. In 2017, they had their child came home and talked about child cross-dressing in their class. These parents, kudos to them. They went to the school, they complained. The school sent them a letter. I'm going to read the letter. An inability to believe a transgender person is actually a real female or real male, and the refusal to acknowledge a transgender person's true gender is transphobic behavior. Well, of course it is, because that's what the narrative says. Kudos to these parents. Again, they didn't roll over and play dead. They took it to court. And in 2012, they were vindicated. Please, please, please. They were vindicated by research that finally came through for them, because scientists are now having to face the true music. They can't slough this off any longer, what's happening to our children. So these parents, of course, have just been so trampled on by the media, by the trans agencies. So I just want to say kudos to these parents, because they hung in there when nobody else cared. Anyways, and what has happened? Well, they've made a difference, and someone else is making a difference. This lady is the UK Attorney General, Selina Braverman. And here's what she has said. This is real recent, folks. Schools should not, under any circumstance, work with external agencies that take or promote extreme political positions or use materials produced by such agencies. Whew. Is she a breath of fresh air or what? She continues, though, and I'm going to read this. Where partisan political views are covered, schools should ensure these are presented with appropriate context. Oh, read the whole story. That's novel, which supports a balanced presentation of opposing views. Wow, we're actually going to start having debates again in the UK, and healthy ones at that, if this lady gets her way, and she is the Attorney General in the UK. So, hey, she also goes on to say interpretations that support unthinking and absolute approaches to gender are rooted in new political ideologies. And these ideologies propagate the view that a person's biological sex is quite distinctive from their gender. Well, it's not, it's all intercombined. But sex, there is a difference between biological sex and the thought of who you are, thinking about being something that you can never be. These theories are premised on the assumption that regardless of biological sex, children must be assisted to decide their gender. So she has really been doing some research, and she does go on to talk more. And it's in you can Google Christian Concern, and you'll see Anne Braverman, and you'll see what she has to say. So, good news. I think there are fresh winds coming. And I want to say to you that the Christian church, to its own shame, has been silent for the most part on gender issues and the LGBTQ. They got beaten down. I get it. And it's easy to get beaten down. But I also want to say to you that that's not a reason to stop fighting for truth and righteousness. I'm going to quit with this quote by Dr. Paul McHugh. He says the government guidance being relied upon in schools in implementing policies that affirm rather than try to resolve gender confusion has mandated a scientifically unwarranted and dangerous experiment on children. And this is laid, I believe this is laid at the feet of the church. Not that I expect every pastor and every church member to understand gender ideology. Oh my goodness, it's so confusing. But to stand for the truth of God and to not be infiltrated and swayed through the infiltration of the LGBT activists. The church has succumbed. And unless things change, there's going to be devastating effects. And these are our children, yours and mine. So I implore you, parents, church leaders, pastors, whomever, start writing your schools. Start standing up for these children and standing up for truth. They need us. We need to take back what has been removed. That is the truth. Truth truly is the elephant in the room. Let's stand for it. Let's debate it. Let's talk about it. And let's save these children. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening.